Hi guys, Bink here. This is episode 4 of Hardercore with kOS. I did run one KSC bug mission offline or off camera, as it's you've seen one, you've seen them all. So I did get survivability, which gives us our parachutes, and I went ahead and grabbed general rocketry, which is going to give us a gimbaling engine. And I think with these now we should be able to get into orbit. We'll give it a shot, and then we'll take a look at the Ascent script. Okay, whoops, we need to go grab some contracts first. All right. What do we got here? From SETI, we can do escape the atmosphere. Rover missions, rover deployment on the moon. That isn't happening anytime soon. KerbalAcademy boot camp. Recruit scientists. Well, we'll have to keep that in mind. Field research. We can do more KSC stuff. Looks like we're up to mystery goo. Bases and stations. Nothing yet from there. Strategia. We don't have anything from them. Tourism plus. Nothing from them. Okay, so our current mission is to escape the atmosphere. 17 reputation. We did pass another holy moly, that must have been from completing the KSC mission. So we're gonna have netting out about what, 47,000 here now, plus we're gonna get a big one, I think, from this one here. Okay, let's see if we can get out of the atmosphere. Should we use test 1 again? One last time. We do need to have more fuel than that. Let's see. We do not have any decouplers. Wait, how about coupling? Oh, we got radial decouplers. Why don't we try that? Let's just ditch this whole thing. Do we have anything in the scrapyard? That is our parts for the KSP bug. So that's not going to do us any good. Alright, so we need to get out of the atmosphere. Let's go to here. Let's see, what if we grabbed 2 of these and put our new Spacely engine, gimbaling engine, 3,000. That I think is going to get us up. 1.86 in the thrust to weight ratio department. We don't really need, since we have a gimbaling engine, we don't need those fins with the control surfaces. That looks a little weird. Let's just put regular basic fins on it. Alright. Some power. Five days. What's our average? Our liquid fuel engine is average. That's not too bad. Not nearly as bad as a SRB. I think we'll call this good. This should get off, right? I think so. All right, so we will add this to the build menu. Oh, did I put a CPU on it? Let's take a quick look-see here. We can edit it from here. Yeah, it's still there. All right, yep, we're good. Save edits. All right. Warp 2 complete. Okay, so we need to take a look at the Ascent script. We will do a rollout first. Oh, nice. Dawn launch. That'll work. That's light enough. Delete on close. Okay, so now let's go take a look at our launch script. Okay, so here we are in the script library. Script folder, rather. Go to the library, Ascent. Okay, so this is our first script, our first function that actually has some real meat to it. This one is controlled by run mode. Run mode is similar to how phase works in the mission script, but it's for the functions. And rather than just sitting in a particular phase like the mission script, the way the functions are set up, they, for the most part, will just set some values and then drop down to the bottom, and then they'll all do some kind of housekeeping stuff at the bottom and then pop right to the top, and they'll do this however many times a second it takes. So let's take a look at this first run mode. So the first one is if our run mode is equal to 1, this is our actual launch run mode. We're going to check this countdown timer that we've initialized to 10. This is how we get our 10-second download, or countdown rather. As long as the countdown is greater than 0, we'll be in this section, and when it gets to be less than 0, we drop into here and actually stage. This is where we actually launch. So pre-launch, we don't really do anything except display this countdown timer until our countdown is less than 1, and then what we'll do is we're actually gonna activate the engines. That's what this does. If it's not a solid rocket booster, we'll activate the engines 1 second prior to liftoff, and that really is just for show, especially when we have launch clamps. You know, before the launch clamps release, we have this 1 second where the engines fire. So, and the first thing we do after we launch, we'll set our H work and our T work. These are our two main values that we use to control the heading and the throttle. We lock the throttle and the steering to throttle lock and heading lock. And so those, when these values change, that automatically changes what our throttle and steering are set at. But for the most part, we are going to manipulate throttle work and heading work. And then after we're done doing that at the bottom in that housekeeping section that I referred to, then we'll set the throttle lock and the H lock to the throttle work and H work, heading work. Okay, so the first thing we'll do after we launch, we're going to set our heading work to ship facing, which is our current pointing straight up, because we want to keep that pointing straight up until we get a reasonable amount of speed. And we're going to set our throttle work to our PID loop. Now our PID loop, our PID controller rather, is initially going to be based on our vertical speed, and we'll set that as the midpoint to that, or the set point to that, at 200. And the reasoning for that is we don't want to exceed 200 meters per second while we're below 8,000 meters, and the atmosphere is quite dense there, so we don't waste our thrust against a dense atmosphere. Stage max is a variable that is the max thrust when we stage, essentially. And we'll use that to tell when an engine is run out of fuel or burned out or whatnot. So when we do a staging, we'll compare our stage max to the current max thrust and be able to tell if we need to stage or not. Then we set the run mode to 2. So while we're waiting for the countdown, and it's gonna go through about every millisecond or something like that, and we're gonna come into here and do this stuff. And one of the things we do is we do elapsed time, which we saw that before, the eTime variable. So that's how we decrement our counter every time we go through here, this time elapsed. Okay, so we've hit run mode 2. We come down to here. Run mode 2 covers everything up to 8,000 meters. The first thing we have here is if it's greater than 8,000 meters, we're going to reset our PID controller and then go to run mode 3. If we're still below 8,000 meters, the first thing we're going to check is, hey, are we greater than 50 meters? If we're greater, or excuse me, not 50 meters, if the vertical speed is greater than 50. And that's just a check to make sure that before we get stable, we need to get a good vertical speed before we're going to start trying to pitch over, essentially, is what we're going to do. So that's where we start changing the pitch, and that is a ratio between our current altitude and the minimum pitch altitude that we set up here. Here's the parameters coming into to the Ascent function. We have a heading, a target heading. In this case, it defaults to 90 degrees, but as you saw, or I guess you will see, we'll reset that. Target apoapsis, initial pitch. The apo ETA, that's going to be how far we try to keep our ETA apoapsis in front of us. S burn is the seconds before hitting apoapsis that we burn for circularization. And M pitch out is the minimum pitch altitude. That's the altitude at which the pitch will be 0, that we're horizontal at that point. And these are all just the default values, and they can all be overridden when we do the Ascent function. As you've seen before, all we've done is enter it, is called the Ascent function with no parameters, and so these are all accepted as the defaults. Okay, where we're at, we're still in run mode 2. Okay, so that's how we do our gradual pitch over, is right here. We're going to take the minimum of either the initial pitch or what the value of this algorithm here is, and that's going to give us as we get higher and higher, that value is going to be lower and lower, so that gives us our pitch over. And then we're going to set our heading, our H work, to the heading and the pitch that we've set up here. If we haven't got to vertical speed greater than 50 yet, we're going to check, hey, is our vertical speed greater than 20? If so, we're going to turn on our SAS and our RCS to give us as much stability as we can initially. And we're going to lock our heading instead to pointing straight up. That's what this is. And then we'll set our throttle using the PID controller. We're going to go against its vertical speed. And as you recall up here, we've set our set point to 200. So that's what we're going to try to do, is make sure that our vertical speed does not exceed 200. And if the work value for the throttle is less than 0.1, we're going to set it to 0.1. Then what that does, that just ensures we never get below 10% throttle. Okay, so once we've exceeded 8,000 meters, we're going to set the run mode to 3. We're also going to switch over our PID loop, our PID controller, to be, instead of based on the vertical speed, we're going to base it on our ETA to our apoapsis. And that's what is going to come in using this value, apo ETA. It's going to say, instead of trying to control the speed, we're now going to control how close we get to our apoapsis, because we don't want to throw our apoapsis out too far ahead of us, and we don't want to overshoot our apoapsis. So that's what that is doing. So we'll reset our PID controller and go to run mode 3. Run mode 3, we're going to, again, use our same pitch controller. We're going to set our heading work to that same thing. Now we're saying if this is kind of an error situation or a fail-safe kind of thing. If our ETA to our periapsis is less than the ETA to our apoapsis, that means that we have passed our apoapsis. In that case, we set the throttle work to 1, which is full blast, and we're going to try to recover this orbit. This is an error condition, pretty much. We shouldn't normally, if things are working properly, we shouldn't get this, but it happens. So I have hopefully something to recover from it there. Otherwise, we're going to check if our ship altitude is less than the PID altitude, and that's the one we set at, what's our PID alt? PID alt, this is we've also got this set to 60,000. This is, the PID alt is the altitude at which we no longer try to keep the ETA at 60 seconds. So here now we're just going to go into, oh yeah, right. So as long as we're less than that PID altitude, we're going to try to keep that out no closer than 60 seconds. Otherwise, we set our throttle to, this is a function, set throttle. It is in our control. We do a require of control at the top of this. So set throttle takes 4 parameters: a current value, a target percent, and a target multiplier. And what this is going to do is, in this instance, we're passing in its current apoapsis and its target apoapsis and 0.1. So what we're doing is we're going to get a ratio between this target apoapsis and our current apoapsis. And the cutoff is going to be the target value times that percent, which is the 0.1. And then we go through this algorithm, and that's going to set our throttle to basically full blast until we start getting closer to the target. And then it will progressively decrease the throttle so that we don't overshoot. Let's see. So we've got that. If we're less than PID alt, we do that. Next, we check if our apoapsis is greater than the target apoapsis. We are going to kill the engine, set H-work to prograde, and we're going to coast to our apoapsis. Okay, and what we do here with set alarm, this is I believe this is in control as well. Set alarm, yes, this allows us to, if Kerbal alarm clock is installed, this will set a Kerbal alarm clock alarm. And in this case, it will be time in seconds. This is the cumulative time since the mission started, plus ETA to apoapsis minus 90. So what this is going to do is set an alarm for 90 seconds before we hit apoapsis. And what that lets you do is use warp. So you can warp to your burn without worrying about overshooting, because we have a Kerbal alarm set here. And in this case, we also set run mode to 4, because we are now done with mode 3. Run mode 3 comes from 8,000 meters up until we have hit our target apoapsis. And then we go to run mode 4. Run mode 4 is just the wait until we get to our target at which we're going to burn. So again, we're going to ensure that our throttle is off and our heading is at prograde. Now, depending on the mods you have installed, your reaction wheels will keep you at prograde. I use a mod called Mandatory RCS, which basically nerfs the reaction wheels and basically makes them just stability only. They don't turn you, or they do, but very, very weakly. So if you want to turn, you need RCS, which I use. And so I have some controls in here that says, hey, if I'm within 20 seconds of my burn time, turn the RCS on to make sure I'm pointed in the right direction, because if you don't have reaction wheels, you know, after between the time when you cut the engine and the time you get to your apoapsis, you know, who knows where you're going to be pointing. So we ensure that the RCS is on at that point. And then when we get to the burn, when the ETA to the apoapsis is less than our burn time, which is our, if you remember from up above, this was set to 5 seconds, which says at 5 seconds before apoapsis will burn for circular ice. That's where we're at here. Turn the RCS off at this point because we don't need it. And we set the run mode to 5. Now, if our ETA to our apoapsis is less than our ETA to, or our periapsis is less than the ETA to our apoapsis, this is again another check to say, hey, did I overshoot my apoapsis? If it is, set run mode to 5. We're gonna hit the juice and see if we can recover that orbit. Then we drop into run mode 5. Now run mode 5 is our circularization. So how we determine if we have an orbit is we go by, I had originally done this and trying to figure out, you know, if my periapsis is this and my apoapsis is this, and had a bunch of logic in there for that. But if your periapsis exceeds your apoapsis, it flips. That becomes the apoapsis. And so this was just a nightmare trying to figure out how to make that work. And I finally figured out that just check the orbital period, because for any orbit, for any apoapsis and periapsis, there is an orbital period for that, which is the time it takes to do that orbit. So I have a value here called target period, and that is set initially way up here to the period using a function, another function here called getPeriod, that we pass in the target apoapsis that is one of our input parameters here. So if we look over at the control script that has, these are a bunch of helper scripts, or helper functions rather, we have getPeriod. And this takes two parameters, one of which is defaulted. So it brings in the apoapsis and we default the periapsis to the apoapsis. So we're assuming a circular orbit unless you pass in two parameters. So we can say, we can do an oblong orbit by passing in two parameters. And what it does is for your orbit, for any given orbit, we'll come back with the period that is. And we take into account which body you're actually orbiting. So whichever body you're orbiting, it will come back with a accurate period on that. So where were we at? We were in 5, right? Okay, so whoops. Sometimes you want to do that, sometimes you don't. That's closing the little folder things on this. That can sometimes help you when you're trying to hide stuff that you don't need to look at and help you check your logic. In any case, we digress. So we say if the ship orbital period is greater than the period that we determined up above, and our periapsis is greater than 70,000, we know we have a good orbit. So in this case, we set the throttle to 0 and set our run mode to 0, and we're done. One bad thing about this script that probably needs some work on is this is a hard-coded value. So this is hard-coded for Kerbin. So this script is not going to work on any other body. So that is a weak point in this script, and at some point I'm gonna need to address that. If we haven't reached our orbit yet, we're going to set our heading work to prograde, and we're going to set our throttle work to, again, set throttle. And what we're using this time, I don't recall, what did we use set throttle to before up here? Where are we at? Where's set throttle? There it is. So we were using the apoapsis and the target apoapsis as our values that we were going to ratio against, so that we could cut the power as we start meeting our apoapsis. Down here, we use the same function, and it works just fine, but instead of the apoapsis, we're putting in the target period and our current period. And what that's going to do as our as our orbital period approaches the target period, it will gradually reduce the throttle until we meet it, and then our throttle's done. So this keeps us from overshooting. Okay, and that is it for our run modes. Now, regardless of which run mode we're in, we're going to fall through and do this code here in our loop. The first thing we're going to do is check abort. Now, abort is a function down here that currently I have set to if our run mode's greater than 1 and the vertical speed is less than -50 and our altitude is less than 65,000 and our periapsis is less than 0, this means something has gone wrong and this ascent has failed. And so we're going to return true. And so we say, hey, if check abort is true, set run mode to 0. So what that allows us to do is if this ascent has failed, we're going to get out of the ascent script and go back to the mission script. And hopefully your mission script is set up to handle that. It says, okay, I've got a failed ascent. What do I do now? Our current mission script is so basic, we don't have anything like that, but later we will. So that's the check abort. And after check abort, we'll check stage. And again, that's in the control. We go find here. So we're going to check stage max, which if you recall, we set just when we launched. Where's that at? Stage max is equal to ship maximum thrust. So we set this variable to our maximum thrust when we launched. Now, every time we go through this loop, which is many times a second, we're going to check to see, hey, did our maximum thrust change? So we're going to say, hey, if this value we saved off minus our current maximum thrust is greater than 10, that means that our maximum thrust has gone down by at least 10. We're going to stage. So it may not have gone completely to 0. Maybe we have some rockets that have a radial, like a booster, a solid rocket booster or something, and this is able to capture that those have run out, and it will do a stage. So what we'll do is we'll lock the throttle to 0, we'll stage, wait 1 second, and lock the throttle back to what it was before. And now we're going to reset stage max back to what our new current maximum thrust is. So we just go through this every time. And that takes care of our staging, so we don't have to worry about that. Then we set our throttle lock and our heading lock to whatever value of throttle work and heading work we set above. And we perform our elapsed time function, which you may recall from the boot script, which just says how much time has passed between the last time we called elapsed time. And the only time we're actually using that in this script is for our countdown. And we do call it twice at the very top, and that's just to get it kind of primed so that our first time we go through it, we're not sitting at like 8 seconds or something, so we don't go 10, 2, boom, this gives us, this gets that thing. Okay. And the next thing we do is a function called telemetry, which I don't think we've looked at that one yet. I think that's in control. Where is telemetry? Here it is. This is a function that prints information out to the console, which we haven't looked at the console yet because there really hasn't been any point, but this will put information out to the console so that we can kind of monitor where our script is. While the craft is flying, it'll tell what is our phase and our run mode and the status, what stage we're at, and what our throttle is set to. And this is awful handy for debugging too, because you can come in here back to Ascent. In addition to telemetry, we're also adding Ascent, which tells us that we're in the Ascent script, and I've added pitch to display here. Telemetry does not display pitch because we don't need it most of the time, but for Ascent it becomes something that's important to us. So for debugging purposes, I'll oftentimes comes in here and print out, I'm pointing with my finger at the screen, that's pretty handy, print out whatever else I may need here to help me debug the script. So while it's running, I can display values, like those the PID controllers or the throttle stuff, so that I could kind of understand how it's working and able to adjust those appropriately. So there's that. And we go through this loop over and over and over again until our run mode hits 0. And our run mode will hit 0 if we hit our abort situation, or if in run mode 5 we have established our orbit. Now with this check abort script, we can go in here, or the function rather, we can go in here and add other conditions that we would like to abort on. And we could also, I think we can do this. I think we could even, yeah, if that turns green, that means that's defined as a proper thing. We could actually turn on the actual abort command at this point. If you had the action group abort set up to do something, we could have that do that there. I don't have that. But, you know, these scripts, you know, if you're going to use these scripts, you know, I encourage you to make them your own. Make whatever changes work for you. So anyway, that is our abort script. After we're done with our abort script, that's our Ascent script. So after we come back to 0, we're going to lock our throttle to 0, lock our steering to prograde, do a clear screen, which is the console, and then we're done. And then at that point, we revert control back to the mission script. So that is the Ascent script. Okay, so let's launch this guy. Well, I guess we got to warp to complete first. We probably ought to look at the mission script, because we will need to change some stuff in that. And bing, bing, roll out. There we go. Nice early morning. No. All right. We won't hit launch just yet. Let's go take a look at our mission script. Okay, mission script. We're still in test 1. Since we've learned a little bit about Ascent now, we know we don't want to just do Ascent, because we're going to pitch over and be at 0 pitch at 60,000 meters, and I don't think we want to do that, because we're not trying to get in an orbit with this guy. We're just going up. So let's go back to library, Ascent. Just grab all these. And down here in, let's see, in main, let's put these in here. Whoops. And instead of parameter, we'll call these local. All right. So we still want to go 90. We still want that minimum pitch. Let's leave our minimum pitch, or our initial pitch, at 90. All the rest, it's not going to matter. We don't want to pitch over at 60,000. Let's put this at, say, 500,000. 5 million. 5 million. Nah. 500,000. So hopefully we're not going to pitch over. So then when we go to here, our Ascent, we want to pass in all of these. Now, I'm not sure if this supports, like, if we just put a bunch of commas and stick minimum pitch altitude as the last one, if that works with this. I should check to see that before I start recording. Yeah, well, you'll have that. S-burn. We're going to pass all these parameters in. All right. If phase equals 1, set phase equals 0. Boom. All right, we're obviously not going to land. If our science, we're going to do science every 20 seconds. So if our altitude, if we stay above 70,000 for less than 20 seconds, it's a chance we'll miss that science. Whatever. Fine. It'll be fine. All right. So I think that's good. If phase is greater, if phase equals 1, ascent, weight 5. Okay, yeah. All right, so that was that. All right, so we're back. Let's kick this puppy off. We're already over time, so. Maybe we'll get lucky and it'll work. All right, one thing we want to do, though, while this is doing its countdown. Where's Kerbal? There it is. Boom, bring the console up so we can see our stuff. We probably ought to make those bigger. All right. There we go. So our status is flying. Our phase is 1. Run mode is 2. Our throttle is 1. Full blast. Pitch is at 0. So once we get above, when this speed starts getting above 200, we're going to see that PID kick in and knock it down. Our pitch is at 90. There, see? Now we are also, because our only, see, we are losing a bit of our stability when we drop the throttle down so far, because our gimbling engine isn't able to deal with that. But we're doing okay. We're only at 89, so we're still fine. There we go. Now we're above 80 or above 8,000, so we crank it, and we're going to do this until our apoapsis is out to 60. That's what we're trying to do, get our apoapsis, the ETA to apoapsis out to 60. Well, that's nice. Oh. All right. We're down to about a third fuel left, and we're looking at a 35. Okay, so we've caught up to our 1 minute now. So we've throttled back. I don't think that's the most efficient way to be doing this, but I think we should still be going full blast. But I guess I could have defaulted that to a different number, because we didn't really need to throttle back for this launch. See, our throttle is down to 0.25. Our pitch is at 84, so we are pitching over a bit. We're in run mode 3. And this also shows at the top we're in test 1 is the folder we're in. Yeah, we're gonna get it. I think, yeah, we should. Pretty nice scenery. Whoa. Using the sci-fi visual enhancements. I think that's what it's called. It's a little easier on the resources than some of the others. Oh yeah, so we've got 71. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get our. Oh, I guess we hit the gas. Oh, now we're gonna throttle back, so we're just right at 100. There we go. We're in space. I did get the contract right. Where's our altitude record? 70 kilometers. That's 2.5, 17, and we get our science from up here. Achieving things. We got new strategies available. We're gonna have ridiculous cash now. 126,000. All right, we're gonna start big fund. we're gonna put, let's see, what are we're gonna get about, yeah, we're gonna put 50% of our funding. Well, maybe that's too much. Let's say 30% of our funding into the big project fund. So when we come across there, so we'll be able to start saving money for upgrading our facilities. So this was actual success. 16 science, which is not spectacular, but we're at we're in run mode 4. He's probably going to kick the gas off again and use that last little bit. 80 milliseconds or meters per second of delta V. Awesome though, awesome, it worked. And it didn't have an error in the program, so we built our oh, now we're going to circularize. Yep, okay, good. So that worked pretty good for just a straight up and down. I've never really changed that before to just do a straight up. Where are we at? Let's see, how we doing on battery power? We're not doing awesome on battery power. He's just going to tumble down. We can probably put some little speed to it here so we don't... Oh, okay, that just killed warp because we hit atmosphere. All right, so this guy's going to burn up. Oh, we just lost our telemetry there. Oh, so because we went orders complete. So once we hit that abort is what happened. So cool. We should stick a notify message in that abort to say what was going on. Another world first milestone. That'll be a distance record. No, a speed record, 790. Let's see what, well, we're not going hugely fast. We're not even going to get a great deal of, where are we at? We're flying high over water. Here we're getting a little bit of heat effects here. Got DeadlyReentry installed. We might be able to get another, if we get flying low over water, we might be able to get some more science. Come on. Nope. Flying low over water is not a science thing. All right. Oh, too bad we don't have a... Oh, we did have parachutes. Guess we forgot to put a parachute on it. Shut up. Did that on purpose. Okay. Well. So, we got a serious amount of... So we've got 100,000. We're going to clear 100,000 on the next budget. Let's bring that up to 50%. So we'll put 50% of our budget into, yeah, that's still, if we don't want to cut us short, 30% of our budget. So of our 100,000, we'll put 30,000, 33,000 or so into the big project fund. All right, coming in for a crash. Gosh, that is gorgeous new texturing. And new models. Haven't really looked at them that closely. There's our barometer there. Here you. Too close here. Aim camera here. All right. There's the battery. That looks nice. There's our barometer. Very nice. I used to use the Ven's stock revamp because I really liked how it changed the parts, and now this replaces that for me big time because Ven's is a bit outdated. And it went a little overboard in my opinion, but that's okay. Oh. Bing. Okay, so we're still doing science. Still doing science. Should something pop up and say, hey, we got science at this place, we've got it covered. But now if I had put a parachute on this thing, we would have splashed down and then got science from the water here, but I forgot. and crash. Well, alrighty then. Back to Space Center. That was actually more successful than I was expecting. So next, we're probably going to have to look at, let's see, what do we got next? We have enough science to get anything? No, 16 is not enough. We need 18. We've got our survivability. So we've got parachutes. I think we could do an orbit, I think. Is that our next? That's our next one, right? In SETI contracts, yeah. Oh, the manned. Well, we're not going to do a manned record anytime soon, but orbit around Kerbin 34. Now, the reason the reputation gain on these are so high is because the well, I think that music's a bit loud. The monthly budgets mod converts the monetary gain into a reputation gain. So that's why they're so high. Is there anything else useful? We still got that. We could do a boot camp for a scientist, but we don't really need scientists yet. So yeah, I think that's good. So next time we'll probably do an orbit and then an orbit and recovery. We should have time to do both of those, and that will give us an excellent opportunity to look at the recovery script. So that is what we'll have for next time. So with that, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.